Hello, welcome to Homeschool Together, and today we're going to be reviewing Torchlight Level Pre-K. This is a preschool curriculum for ages 4 to 5. This is based on the Socratic method, so that's inquiry-based learning, and this is going to cover a variety of subjects from preliteracy, literature, art, science, math, music, and it even has a great section on emotional intelligence for your kids. So what's included in here is weekly lesson plans, mindfulness moments, badges, and a math inquiry book if you get the entire bundle. This covers 32 weeks. It sells for $32 at the time of this recording. And if you want to add on the math and the emotional mindfulness badges, then that'll be $42 for the whole bundle. Overall, this gets our recommendation. We did this with our own daughter and we had a terrific time doing it. It really has a great book list with lots to keep young readers really interested in whatever facet they most connect with, whether that's music or literature or art. So this has a lot to recommend it. So let's dive in and take a closer look. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this level pre-K, Curiosity and Character from Torchlight. We've got the main book here that it's all a digital PDF curriculum, so we've printed it, put it in a binder. And then we have the math inquiry tables that we'll get into in just a minute. So let's start with the main curriculum and take a look at what's inside. So the first thing that you're going to get is a great craft and supply list from the store. Most of these things we had at home, but there were a few outliers that I was like, well, I'd actually have to go and buy that. So, do be aware there might be a couple of items on this list. I don't have India ink, for example, or a brayer. I'm actually not sure what a brayer is. So there's a couple of things that are weird on here that wouldn't be things you'd normally have, but lots of things like tissue paper and staplers and things you would. So be aware that there's a list. What's nice about this is the whole 32 weeks. It gives you everything that you would need, which is really terrific, so you can plan ahead. And then it provides this great weekly book list, a checklist when you purchase the curriculum, which I really love because this is going to be the books. It'll give you the titles and the author and whether you own them or you're going to get them at the library. So this is awesome. Before I would start a week, I would go through and I would tick off where I was going to find all of the different items. And I thought that that was a really valuable thing to have. So this is going to go through the whole 32 weeks and you'll be able to know exactly what you need for every week. And it just makes managing those library holds just a bit easier. Next, you'll have your table of contents, which if you're using the digital PDF curriculum, you'll be able to these are all hyperlinks and you can click right to it. There's a nice welcome letter here about what Torchlight is, what they want to focus on. So there's going to be a connections project. This is going to run through the entire 32 weeks. And it's something that your child will use to explore themselves and their lives, whether you're going to hole punch it or do yarn lacing at the end. It makes a keepsake at the end. So every week you're going to be building on this connections project. There's going to be some pre-literacy games and things to help your learner to get ready for reading. And there's some stuff in here for math. So math is a combination of the math inquiry tables, and then there's this preschool math at home book that is absolutely terrific. I'll link a copy in the show notes so that you can see which book that is, but it's really great. We got it from our library at the time that we did this, and it was terrific. The next thing is that there is music and poetry here. So there's a bit of that's incorporated. There'll be links each week of different music selections that you can use and some poetry for you to read. So that's excellent. There is a science component, and we'll give you a preview of a few of the science books that they use. There is some optional reading and writing. Of course, we didn't do that with our pre-K learner. And then this section, I actually didn't see it in here, but there is a big section here on emotional intelligence, and there's these mindfulness badges, and I'll show those too. I think that might be one of the best parts of the Torchlight curriculum, is the emotional intelligence part that I haven't seen done in any other pre-K curriculum or even kinder curriculum that I thought was really helpful for our daughter. So here again is your materials list. This is the book list if you want to just break it up between like literature and language arts and science and the different things that you'll need. It tells you what weeks you'll need each thing. and whether or not it's a spine or an audiobook exists of it or it's an activity. So it gives you some ideas. There's lots of supplemental stuff here, books and videos and things that you can use. So let's just jump right into a week. So the way that Torchlight is always laid out is the same. There's going to be a grid here of the different subjects and then which days and what you're supposed to do on those days. This is, of course, totally optional whether you want to do this on these days or you want to mix things up, but this is a suggested weekly schedule. These are the things that you would want to prep before you start the week. I very much appreciate this section. It really helped us to say like, okay, on a Sunday night, what do we have to get ready so we can start in the morning? You know, if you need to remove and laminate something, it'll say. If you have to have something ready for an activity, it'll tell you, because here's all the supplies that you'll need for art and math and science, and oh, you need watercolor paper and yarns and crayons this week. And so it gives you some really great information there so you can be ready. And then over here is an actual checklist of the work. So while this might say that you're going to do, for example, a whole bunch of feelings, which is here, this is actually going to tell you here exactly the same page number, but I'll tell you what it's covering, and it'll give you some discussion information. So this is going to give you more info than your table will. And they put a little field trip opportunity at the top because we're talking about animal habitats and habits and habitats here. So that's kind of cool. That I like how Torchlight gives you like lots of things and you can think about what you want to use. You don't have to use it all, but it's nice to have options. So for each week, there's going to be a seasonal song. There's a book called A Celebration of Seasons, and it has music with it. And so each week it's going to be a different song, and then you're going to be singing it each day. You're going to listen to it, and you're going to, maybe they suggest doing it morning or bedtime each day. And our kids really like the song, so I think that that's really positive. Then there's emotional intelligence. They're going to recommend Breathe Like a Bear. I'm going to show a couple of the main books here when I get done with the structure. So they're going to teach. This is teaching candle breath. This is how to. This is all emotional intelligence about like how to regulate your emotions and maybe calm yourself down or that kind of thing. This is some really good things, and the way the book is done, it helps to connect with your kids. So I'll show that. And then there's a book all about feelings and understanding your different feelings. And then there's some conversation cards that I'll also show that help kids to interpret different situations and how other people might be feeling in those situations, which is really great. There's a science component here, there's a Nature's Wonder book that I'll show. And that's, the inquiry is a starting point, and then you can go and look up more. I mean, I remember when we did this, we did beavers, we looked up more books about beavers. There is a couple of book readings. There's this daytime, nighttime that you'll read multiple times where you look at animals and day and night and what happens there. And then there's an Outside Your Window book, and it's got lots of different information about different animals and the way that they live and different parts of nature. So it's kind of all coming in this nature theme. Now, every week the literature is going to be something different. It's not always nature-based. It just happens that this week is about animals. There is an art lab for little kids book where they're going to have some sort of an arts and craft activity. And sometimes she'll put in here something like challenge, take a walk to collect the materials that you're going to do for your art project. So sometimes you'll see that. And that's optional. You could just have those things prepared in advance. Sometimes we would prepare in advance because we wouldn't know if it was going to be, the weather was going to be cooperative that day for us to go out and collect materials, things like that. So then it's a math section, and this is that preschool math at home book, which is terrific. And then there's another book here, The Socks Like Pants, which is more of a logic-based book than a math book. We got that one digitally. There's a digital purchase of that. I found that book was very difficult. It was difficult for me as an adult and as a science major to do, which I thought was surprising. It had like circles with different items and trying to figure out how they were all connected to one another. And it wasn't intuitive. I think that one's really hard. I've heard some people really love the challenge of Socks Like Pants, and others like us were really scratching our heads even in the first week. So this Socks Like Pants book is one that I think that you should try and see if you can't preview before you purchase it, because it just might be it didn't seem to click with our brains, at least in our house, and we're a pretty STEMmy house, so that just didn't work for us. But the preschool math at home was excellent. And then there's science. There's this little bit of dirt book, and you're going to do some science. There's a couple of different science books. This is just the one that they use for this week, but this gives you an idea. So this is all the items. Whether or not you do all these items or not is totally up to you, as always. Just, I always want to say that. I know that sounds obvious, but some people feel like I got to check all the boxes, and I'm a box checker, so I totally feel that. But we really need to do the things that connect with our kids and that bring us as a family, growth and learning and happiness. And if something's causing you problems, just eject. So then they're going to take you through this connection project. So for example, this first week, that you're collecting a book, of course, that you work on every week. And this week's project is that your learner is going to create a representation of their habitat. So they can draw it or paint it or build it. And then if they build something, then you would photograph it to put in their book. And then they discuss what makes their habitat special. So in this case, we had our daughter draw a picture of her bedroom, and she drew where everything was, and she labeled it, and she talked about, she told us why it was important, and we wrote all that down on her drawing, and then we put it in her connections book for the end of the year. So this is a great section that's in every week, and this is enrichment stuff. So there's a couple more books for you. If there's a couple of games, if that's something that your family really loves, our family loves games. Then there's some music that you can listen to, some great videos that you can usually find on YouTube, or in this case, this is Daniel Tiger. You can find them on PBS. And then some apps. So I love this part that we have some extension materials. If you're a really visual family, you can go for the videos, or if you want music, this gives you some really good ideas here. And you can take or leave, whatever you'd like here. Occasionally in this section too, there'll be something here for a slightly older learner that will maybe be more challenging, but will connect with whatever they're learning for this week. And that can be helpful to have too, especially if you have some tag-along siblings. And then if there are going to be any pages for the activities, they're going to be at the end of every week, which I like. And rather than having to go to the very end of the curriculum and pull out activity pages, they're right here. And then, so there's some more information here, and it's going to start, each week you're going to start with the skills chart. So this week we're just going to laminate this chart, and then every week you're going to add a new emotional skills badge to it, and I'll show what those badges look like. And as you add them, you're going to be discussing what those skills are. So it's a really cool system. But this first week you're just gonna print and laminate this guy here, and then give you some more pages for that. And here's the badges. So this is how your child's feeling, and you're going to be talking about each one of them. And this is just a great way to, there's going to be a discussion every week about these, but it's also a really great way for your child to try to communicate to you how they feel. I remember that our daughter would sometimes she just couldn't find the words for it, and she would point to this and say, this is how I'm feeling. So it's nice to have these. So there's a whole bunch of them that you're going to learn about and then be able to use. So that's the way that each week is structured for this. Now I want to touch on this briefly. This is the very end of the curriculum. So there's a little exit interview about what your favorite books were and things for a keepsake. And then there's these pre-literacy games. So each week it's going to talk about pre-literacy, and here's some great ideas. So you don't have to think about what you're going to do yourself. And it includes some letters. They made them letter stones in this, which it was neat and engaging for our child. And then you've got a letter chart at the end. So that completes the main book. So let's take a quick look at the math inquiry tables. So here's the additional math inquiry tables that are an add-on to level pre-K. So let's take a quick look, and we'll talk about this. So each monthly table, so this is 8 months because it's intended to kind of be the school year, there's going to be a different prompt or challenge, and you're going to prepare for that and then go through your routine with this. So here's your general materials list. It's got everything you need again. Here's the book list again, but this is just for math. So you can see the topics, right? Numbers, sequencing, patterns, size, weight, measuring, counting, small shapes. So each month you'll have a different topic that you'll go ahead and dive into, and then you can use these books as an addition for that. So let's look at month 1. This is numbers. So we're going to be exploring numbers, and there's going to be a number of challenges. So for the supplies for this, there's a book. This is part of the Math Start book series. And there's a few manipulatives. You're going to need some counters, an egg carton, Play-Doh, Legos, basket. And then you're going to need to print the number symbol cards and tracing cards for this. And there is a video supplement as well. So again, it's going to take you through it, and then it's going to give you the checklist, and you just kind of walk right through this. So you prompt your child, like, which Lego tower has a bigger amount of Legos, and so you go through each of the things. Like, so for the Lego one, for example, set out 2 number symbol cards each morning and a basket of Legos, and then tell your learner to build towers with the proper amount of them. Then stand them up and decide which has the larger number of Legos. For example, that's one of the items you could do. And here's the number symbol cards that you can use. And then there's tracing cards. If you laminate these, then you can go ahead and use a dry erase marker to go over these. Part to whole cards. So there's a few different things in here. And then you can see now we get into month 2. So this is the way that this entire inquiry table goes. And I don't believe there's anything at the end. There's a little bit of bonus. This is shapes. So a little bit of bonus things for summer reading if you want to get more into some advanced topics that aren't taught in this for math. So this was a great little book. We enjoyed it. It paired well with the Preschool Math at Home book by Kate Snow that we really loved. I don't think that this is like a must-have, but if you want to do something for math, you could definitely use this, or you could just use the Kate Snow book and do the exercises in there, and that would also be totally fine. So with the full bundle, you get the base curriculum, you get the math inquiry tables, which we just showed, but then you also get these mindfulness badges. So I wanted to show those to you here. So this is the optional edition. And these are the things that you're going to learn in that book, which I'll show in a minute. So like the candle breath. This is a chart that your kids can reference for the different types of breathing. And this was nice because we would say to our daughter, like, oh, remember snake breath or whatever. It was kind of easier for her to place this with a picture, right? So these just help you to remember, help your child to remember the different types of mindfulness that they've learned. And as you learn new ones each week, you add another badge to the chart. So you've got this chart and you can laminate it, and then you've got these all, and we just like to put these on the wall. And so you can see there's just a bunch of pages here for that. But we would put these on the wall, and then again, we could reference them with our daughter when she was really angry or frustrated about something. We could point to one of the skills that we had learned and help her work through that. So these are all the parts that would come in the bundle. And let's dive into a couple of our favorite books, because I want to give you a taste for the type of books that Torchlight uses. Since it's a literature-based curriculum, it's more of a books-based curriculum. Definitely want to show you the books because it's such an integral part of what you'll be doing. Okay, I have a couple examples here of the types of books that Torchlight uses. This is Library Lion. This is one of the picture books that you'd read. And this is just the kind of style. The picture books were in general really high quality. They are newer picture books, so you may not be able to get all of them used. I think at this point, we had done this back in 2019 when it was fairly new. At this point, I think most of these should all be available at your library because they're more mainstream now than they were then. But overall, it's a really great book selection, and there's going to be something interesting each week to read about that will connect with your learning. And then I want to show some of the social emotional things, because I think that really the social emotional part is where Torchlight really stands out. So this is I Heard Your Feelings. These are conversation cards. And so what it does is it presents a picture situation that you and your child are supposed to look at together. And then you ask questions like, who's in the biggest hurry? How does somebody feel? What are cat and kitten feeling? What should rabbit say to them? So like clearly, he's in a hurry and rabbit's taking a while because he's got these heavy boxes. Maybe cat's worried about rabbit, that maybe rabbit might drop something, or maybe cat's worried because he knows that dog is late, right? So this just helps our kids to interpret different social situations and try to connect and empathize with each character and maybe come up with solutions to problems. So these are great. There's a whole box full of these, and they all have different situations that are happening, and they have just some quick little questions. These are a really great resource to help our kids understand how others might be feeling and how to read emotional situations. So these are really terrific. The next thing is this Breathe Like a Bear. This is the mindfulness moments that we talked about. So I'll go to one. We've been talking about candle breath. So let's talk about candle breath a little bit. So imagine you're holding a candle and take a long breath in, slowly blow it out. You want to make make your candle flame wiggle, but don't blow it out. So this is teaching you how to have long, deep, slow breaths. And that's the candle breath. And then there's another one, hot chocolate. Imagine you're holding hot chocolate in your hand. So this is all things that kids can connect with and help with mindfulness exercises. So this is where those mindfulness badges are all going to come from, and you're going to do a different one each week, and then you're going to be practicing the ones that you learn. So this is great. There's 30 different mindfulness exercises in this book, and our daughter really connected with this book. So this was a good one. Continuing on the social emotional, here's the Whole Bunch of Feelings book, and what do they mean? This is again where you're going to get your badges. So Mr. Sloth feels lazy, right? So it talks about what it means to feel lazy and how he would feel. And do you ever feel lazy? So this is I'm so disappointed. This was a big one for us, disappointed. I actually remember this page because this would help us explain to our daughter, what does that feel like? And have you ever felt this way? And then we could practice some of our mindfulness moments if one of these emotions is a negative emotion, and how would we maybe deal with that? So there's lots of good things here. Really connecting with our kids, and I really like this book, and it's helpful to give them some words and even just pictures to point to explain how they feel. The next thing I want to show you is this Nature's Wonders book. This is part of the science, and it's just going to talk about different aspects of nature, asking some questions. All these are questions. Can you imagine what it would be like to walk on your tiptoes? What is fur for? So you're really asking your child to think, and then it's going to give them some information. So it's really a terrific discussion piece. You can see how bright, bold, and colorful this is. So I think this is a really quality book. So that's Nature's Wonders. And then I wanted to bring just one of the science books. This is a DK book, Look, I'm a Scientist. And these are the types of experiments. Like, okay, this is slime. I know I'm not big on slime in our house, but it has its place. So in this one, it's talking about how would you make slime. I think, here it is. So you're going to need cornstarch and dishwashing liquid food coloring and warm water. It's going to give you all the steps to make it. And then it's going to ask you some questions about it. What happens when you squeeze it? What happens when you let it go? And kind of learning about science through some really simple hands-on experiments. I think this is a great book. Fun with balloons, melting, and I remember doing this one. So there's some really good things in here. It's very colorful. Everything is really easy. Doesn't take crazy ingredients. So I think this is a great book for science. So these are just a couple of the main spines. I just wanted to show you the types of books that it uses so that you could get an idea of what you'd be using for this curriculum. I think all these books, with the exception of the literature, is something that you probably want to purchase because you're going to be using them over and over again. These Look, I'm a Scientist, and I think it's Look Like an Engineer, are ones that you're going to use for shorter time periods. So you might be able to just get these from the library, but definitely look into that and see, with that book list, checklist, how many weeks it's used and whether it makes sense for you to purchase it or not. Well, I hope this was helpful for you and your family as you try to make some decisions about what you want to use for your preschooler. I think overall, the benefits of this is it's a low-cost PDF curriculum. There's lots to explore here. There's great books. The emotional intelligence part, I keep talking about it, but it really is terrific. And I think that's the piece we all remember the most about our time doing Torchlight Pre-K. I think the drawback of this is there's a lot going on. There's a lot of books, and if you decide that you need to buy all those books because you don't have a library system that has them readily available, it could get quite expensive. Additionally, this felt like a bit much. We did it at 4 when our daughter was 4 years old, and it felt like a lot for a 4-year-old. I think this would be better suited for a 5-year-old, honestly, or you could just pare back some of the elements, take the things that you like and leave the things that you don't. I think that there's enough goodness here to justify getting it, but you might just need to be prepared to not check all those boxes. So I think that this is mostly for parents that want that pre-K structure, they want to get their kids ready for kinder, or they have kinder age kids. I think this would work just fine as a kindergarten curriculum. There's like lots of goodness here. And this is probably best for parents that can really give that attention. If you've got a bunch of different children that are all homeschooling, this is definitely not anything that can be done independently. It's not, there's a good mix of hands-on and reading, so I think that's nice, but just be aware that it's going to take lots of your time to do this one. If this is your first foray into a homeschool curriculum, you've never done anything before for a preschooler, I think that this is really jumping in. You're really diving in. If you want something more gentle, I would look into maybe Blossom and Roots Early Years Volume 2 curriculum. I think that that's going to give you a gentler introduction to this. There's a lot going on with this. This feels like we are homeschooling now. So if you're ready for it, to dive into it, or you're ready to just take what you want and leave what you don't, this would be fine. Just know that there's a lot going on in this. It's really packed full of a lot of good things, but don't be overwhelmed by that. So overall, I think this is great. This gets our recommendation. I think it's certainly worth the price. And we hope that this review was helpful to you on your homeschool journey.